Welcome, people. Welcome, dear inhabitants of this planet. I am Julian Catari. This is Blue Heron Woman. We are having a conversation today about moving into the different places of the land, moving back into the land, bringing back the ways of the land. And that's what we do. And we do a whole bunch of research about it and a whole bunch of building the knowledge structures that would be necessary for anyone that would wish to join this endeavor. And that's what part of this is about. This is I Need Living Conversations, and we share a whole bunch of topics regarding different ways to be sovereign, about different specific topics about science and spirituality that help us take a better look, have another lens, have more understanding of how to be back in a more healthy, natural world. Welcome, everyone. This is the 197th session, the principle of oneness, Ubuntu. I don't. I hope you don't mind. I added that Ubuntu word at the end.
Not at all.
Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about, and it should be fun. I think that word is bustling out there. The word Ubuntu. Some people like that word, the concept, and this is going to be something you don't want to miss if you're interested in that. So welcome.
Well, we're going to start with some more about this God concept, because this is really, really, really important. And we need to understand this before we delve further into the principles or the ideas that bring forth principles. So Einstein was once asked if he believed in God, and he replied, "I believe in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the orderly harmony of what exists, not in a God who concerns himself with the fates and actions of human beings." So who was Spinoza, and who is this God, and what is this God of his that Einstein believed in?
Wow. So you've been talking about Spinoza. It's been resonating lately, and funnily, when you talk about something, it's out there too. Something out there also mentions it in a way.
Yeah.
And the word Spinoza has been out there, so I'm really happy to hear about it.
So Baruch Spinoza was a Portuguese Jew whose family immigrated to Amsterdam to escape persecution, and he was in the 1600s. And he started questioning the dogma of the Jewish religion. And he was excommunicated from the church for believing, as our animistic ancestors did, that God is a silent force breathing through every grain of sand, every dying star, every human and non-human heart beating, every leaf, rock, and tree, and animal. So they cast him out of the church. I mean, they royally they excommunicated him in the most severe form they could possibly excommunicate him.
And what year was this?
In the 1600s.
Okay, that's quite early. I'm shocked they didn't try to kill him or something.
Yeah, well, he died very young because he was a glass grinder and he kept inhaling the particles. But he was, they cast him out of church and out of society for suggesting that the divine is not above us watching from golden clouds somewhere in a place called heaven, but is within us and all around us. He proposed that God was not a being, but beingness itself. And I think this is the most important thing we need to get through our heads, because this is a divine absolute truth, is there is no white male being. And it has I'm 57 years old, and I'm just finally getting this knowledge into my head that there is not a white male being in the sky somewhere. That's God.
Yes. So that the importance of finding the word, I must say, because and how with the simplicity of the language improvement comes this clarity about it. Okay, I like it.
So science has not proved the existence of a white male human being out there somewhere in space. They have proved what our animistic ancestors and Spinoza knew to be true, that God is beingness itself. During the day, Spinoza made lenses for microscopes and glasses and stuff like this. And at night, he worked to demonstrate the nature of God, the mind, and human freedom. He was revolting against the God of traditional theism that was conceived of as a white male being apart from creation, a divine monarch ruling from his celestial throne, intervening in human affairs through miracles, and demanding worship, and being capable of great anger, vengeance, and rarely ever love. This God of religion is personal anthropomorphic and the cosmic father figure who watches over his children with a mixture of justice and mercy. And Spinoza also proved that Jesus and God were absolutely freaking created by one man. The book of Genesis was written by, that has influenced us for thousands of years, was written by one man with a political agenda of control.
Wow.
The whole Christmas story, the whole Christmas season, everything. One man created this political agenda of control.
Wow.
Which is amazing. Mm-hmm. So Spinoza felt, as our animistic ancestors had, that God is the very force of nature. Every falling leaf, every supernova exploding in the cosmic depths is not created by God, but is God expressing the infinite creativity of existence, of life through countless forms. And so the distinction of creator and creation can now dissolve into unity so complete that to know nature is to know God. To know the pigginess of a pig is to know God. To know the cowiness of a cow is to know God. To know the goatiness of a goat is to know God. To know the tree-iness of a tree is to know God.
Mm-hmm.
To know the Julianness of Julian is to know God. Mm-hmm. Right?
Nobody's left out.
To know your true self is to know God. And that's what it says, the Oracle of Delphi said, know yourself to know God, right? So this terror, this caused the terror in religion. The terror this caused in religion then was that if God is not separate from nature, then there's no need for priests and temples, pastors and churches, or for the elaborate hierarchies that have been created to mediate between us and an off-planet God. And if every stone and stream is sacred and every human is a finite expression of infinite divinity, then religions would have no choice but to crumble. So they excommunicated him and burnt his books. So we have been searching the skies for what lives in the depth of our body for a very long time. And so true freedom then is not the ability to just do whatever we please, but the recognition that we are part of a vast web of cause and effect, an infinite chain of necessity that connects every moment to every other moment in the cosmo-eco dance. To be free, to be truly free and liberated, is to understand our place in this cosmo-eco order so that we no longer experience ourselves as separate from it. And this is active participation in the intelligence that moves stars and makes our planet spin on her axis while she orbits grandfather sun. And makes our galaxy orbit through the Milky Way and makes the Milky Way orbit.
Wow.
So when we understand that our individual will is part of the universal will, and that our life is unique and an unrepeatable expression of infinite life, we can experience a profound self-acceptance and love that comes from knowing ourselves as part of something immeasurably greater than ourselves and something that is eternal. And also that eternal part of us is not personal. So all these principles are not personal. Religion has created a very personal God that will strike us dead for doing something wrong. No. So salvation then is not found in a man dying on the cross for us or through obedience to dogma or external authority, but in understanding that we are not subjects of a distant king, but expressions of an infinite power whose ideas and principles are as sacred as they are knowable and livable. Salvation then is also realizing that underneath the materialistic world we see, there are recognizable patterns and an order that is spiritual. Underlying the world of chance is the world of constants that never changes, because the breath is the source of life and it remains constant, while the world of chance is the matter materializing life's goals and objectives. So the constant of life is the life-giving breath of the eternal self manifesting through us and everything around us. So the divine breath of life inspires or gives ideas to matter to create. And with that, we will move on to the idea of oneness oneness or unity with the principle of Ubuntu. I am
Okay,
because we.
Yeah, go ahead. Finish that. I'm sorry.
The principle of Ubuntu that says I am because we are.
Okay. I was gonna say about, like, okay, Spinoza, then this you shared so far, it's another view maybe, and it's a really good view of that oneness, and now you're gonna go into another source.
Well, yeah, I'm pulling from many sources.
From many sources. Okay, cool. Yeah, because Spinoza. Then I was gonna say it really stood out from all the philosophers, out there. So so it's like I'm amazed that there's how you're gonna connect something else to it, and
well, because we're always searching for God, so I needed to bring his view of
and
of
his
God,
view is like such a yeah, I don't know. I used to
such
have
a profoundness.
such a it's like a marker of you have to know him. You have to know about him.
Yeah, we have to, and even if you weren't raised in religion and don't believe, it's that freaking pendulum is huge, absolutely vast, that says God is a two-legged white male being somewhere up there in the sky sitting on a throne that's coming back to save us. It's a huge ass pendulum. That's why I presented that, because we got to get that unwired from our bodies. Whether you're part of religion or not, that's kind of wired in through the domestication. So,
yeah. Wow. So it's credible that there's more from another source, which is amazing. Okay, that can teach us about the oneness.
Well, the word Ubuntu comes from South Africa, so we're going to the Africans for some of these.
Okay.
So in the beginning, there was not one, there was many in one, not a solitary spark, but a constellation of presence, each part glowing with divine essence. So nothing exists in isolation. You are not just yourself. You are the continuation of others, ancestors, kins, community, and cosmos. Your humanity is informed through your relationship to others. Your soul, like your body, is born into relationship, into the web of life, into the arms of community, into the lineage of ancestors, a thread in a much larger pattern. Oneness unity does not mean erasing individuality. It reveals that our true self is most powerful when in conscious relation with all. We are each a node in a divine web. Our thoughts ripple, our actions radiate. Ubuntu says you're already part of something ancient, something alive, something divine. And when you forget who you are, the community of heaven and earth will remember you back into being. With oneness or unity is the diversity of all that is. The oneness or unity is actually the only thing that exists. It is the only reality, and yet at the same time, it's also no thing or nothing. It's no one thing. So yet from that no thing comes all that is, and everything that exists is always aiming to unify itself with the whole, and within the oneness is the diversity of all that is. So from the principle of Ubuntu comes the divine idea of ancestral continuity, saying that life is not a single point in time, it is a continuum, a cycle without end or beginning. And this divine idea teaches us that the living, the dead, and the yet unborn are not separate generations, but one extended being, breathing through time, woven together by blood, spirit, and memory. And so the divine idea of ancestral continuity dissolves the illusion of death as a disappearance, and instead we can know death as a transformation. And we also know then that every blessing, our more than human life world, is not for us alone. It is for the lineage that we carry and the children who will inherit our shadow. So this idea shapes how we think about our personal identity. And we know then that we're not a random personality formed by circumstance. We are a spirit chosen, remembered, and sent here with an assignment. The next one is the idea of two-ness or diversity, the principles of polarity and gender.
Wow.
Showing. Do you have something to say?
No, no, go ahead. I was thinking, I wasn't going to say anything, but I was thinking that I just learned about the word monism kind of in a better way, because I would sometimes associate monism with the materialism and the religion, like those two sides of like the scientism and strict religion, and whether it's all one God or one thing, right? So that would be monism. But then you're touching on something amazing, because I was hearing this podcast about these guys supposed to be the researchers about this, and they're making a whole compendium of all the different worldviews about the nature of consciousness, etc. And they touch on monism, and I had a different idea of monism. I would think it was more just the attitude of the effects of the negative effects, or not even that. It's almost like we've made of this system, this world we live in. We tell stories to make it valid, right? So we either use God, or we use the whatever you call them, pendulums of idealisms, the different types of nationalisms, but they all kind of draw back to a worldview, and so these guys were making this compendium, and I got a different view about monism, where but then of all of this, it's like they even go into the discussion of saying that there's an identity crisis, where each different view, it's simply a view, right? And they all kind of are together in a way, right? So there is this everything draws back to source kind of situation, where that maybe could be called a way of monism. Then this is all just language things, but this is really amazing. I've been just hearing too much stuff that is resonating with what you're sharing right now. So I wanted to share that point of view, that experience of learning, and of course for our watchers here, maybe it helps them get a little bit more words, understanding of the different worldviews, how there's this quest still of trying to understand where we are and how it works. And this touches the monism can become a dualism, or a non-dual, and then there's non-dualistic monism. There's a whole bunch of different categories and different kind of.
But we're making that too complicated.
And you guys would really be happy to hear what you are doing right now, because you are kind of connecting many things in ways that I even think they are not able to do, right? So this is really breakthrough to me, I believe, and I want to say it so that watchers here know that this is breakthrough research about the nature of consciousness. Here we are, oneness.
Right. Yeah. So the idea of two-ness or duality or diversity, right, produces the principles of polarity and gender. And I'm lumping these two together because they're both one and the same.
Mm-hmm.
So when the unity of the vast self began to perceive itself as diversity, polarity and gender came forth. Yin and yang, masculine and feminine, they are not enemies locked in eternal combat. They are co-creators of reality, dancing in rhythm, complementing one another. Existence cannot and will not ever be based on a singularity, on monism. It cannot. It just cannot. But on the dynamic interaction between opposing and yet complementary forces. So the principle of polarity teaches us not to fear polarity, but to revere it, because without the contrast, nothing can be seen, understood, or transformed. Polarity is not about conflict, it's about composition. The day is not superior to the night, nor is the night superior to the day. Both are necessary to form the whole. Masculine and feminine are not competing, they are interdependent, each holding a sacred role, each carrying different and equal currents of power. When either one is denied or suppressed, imbalance ripples through the soul, the society, and the whole cosmo ecosystem. Every being contains both polarities, and to be spiritually whole is to bring these two polarities into alignment and balance. It is the feminine that is the power, or the yin that is the power of inspiration. And when the inspiration unfolds, then it's masculine. That's the unfolding. The feminine is descending light itself, and the masculine is the unfolding of the feminine. So then with the principle of gender, then we get into the concept of sex and genders, which serve two different purposes. Sex is all about generating differences between individuals and their nuclear genes, making each form genetically unique. However, having sex does not demand that there should be two genders. Yet two genders generate differences between individuals in their mitochondrial genes. So we each have two genomes. We not only have two different forces, we both have masculine and feminine, or yin and yang, or positive and negative. We now also have two genomes, mitochondrial and nuclear. So sex enables natural selection to operate on genes in the nucleus of the cell, while two genders allow selection to act on the mitochondrial genes. In all life, not just humans. And that's as deep as we're going to go tonight. So the next one, the idea of threeness.
Okay. It all connects to the oneness, and yet it has the plurality and goes through all the levels.
Yeah.
And none of them cancel each other out.
No. The principles of Trinity or trilogy or the triangle. So every manifestation is the result of three forces, which can be called active, passive, and neutralizing. Creation depends on the conjunction of these three forces. Nothing can take place unless all three are present. Without neutralizing force, active and passive, or masculine, feminine, yin yang, stand in useless polarity, and nothing new can emerge. But when the neutralizing force is present, active and passive can join and produce results. We could also call these forces affirming or active, or from tropical astrology, the three modes, cardinal, which is the force that initiates action or change. Then we have denying or passive or fixed from astrology, the force that opposes or resists the active force. And then we have reconciling, neutralizing, or mutable, the force that harmonizes the first two, allowing a new phenomena to emerge. So we see the cardinal, fixed, and mutable in Western astrology, and I never understood it till now. But we see, because we see this in the Chinese system also, but with animals representing each. So for example, the Chinese system has autumn starting on August 6th with the yin monkey, right in the heat of summer. And you're like, what? I was like, well, what the hell? Why are they starting autumn so early? And that's when I started reading about these three, tuning into these three forces. It's like, yeah, okay, so the cardinal phase, or the active, the change provoking phase of autumn started on August 6th, and there are days I can feel it. There are other days where the heat of of summer season is still flattens everything, but you can feel the cardinal force of autumn with the yin monkey. So then the Chinese system brings us the metal yang rooster starting September 8th for 30 days. So that would be the fixed presence of fall coming in over the equinox. And we have this silly idea that autumn doesn't actually start till the equinox. And in some places, we still feel the summer even through this fixed presence of fall. And then on October 8th, the Chinese bring in the earth dog, which is the neutralizing force. So, and starting from that point, and that's pretty much the first time that we'll start really cracking cold, when, right? You can start feeling the cold of winter start coming in. So when you just can't get away from the three. When you really tune into this, you can't. Another trilogy, Trinity, is the authentic dance of love between men and women, or men and men, or women and women, whatever, with its three movements of being solo and then counterpoint and then coming together. And that embraces solitude, conflict, and intimacy. Leave any of these three movements out and we destroy the dance. So we all think our relationship should not have conflict, but that's the polarity. It's how we neutralize it, how the neutralizing factor works. And lastly, the trilogy of community: hearth, hospitality, and community. The hearth being the nuclear area, a vital creative center, a place of gathering where all can gather, feast, and laugh, and weep, and celebrate together. Hospitality is being the cordial and generous reception of guests or strangers, or we would call this heart. And then lastly, community, a body of individuals organized into a unity with awareness. And this could also be called earth. So heart, hearth, and earth live together or die together.
Wow, such a combination, huh?
Yeah.
Such a way to combine a philosophical teaching with a spiritual teaching, with a practical teaching, with coming together, with creating this project. This was so proper for Aloha Nirau Living, I believe.
Well, and these principles, these divine ideas with the following principles help us realize that our freedom lies in knowing this, right?
Yeah.
In understanding and living it.
And
so the next one.
So much freedom that can come.
Yeah.
That's we are proving with this that right now.
That we don't need external authority. We don't, right?
Mm-hmm. Because in that knowing about it is the step to liberation. It's right here, and it can't go without taking this. You got to do something about it. If what's the good of knowing something and not doing anything about it? That is not wisdom, I guess. So would that be the definition of wisdom? Acting on your knowledge?
Yes, putting it into practice.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's when knowledge transforms into wisdom. And the beauty of this is what Spinoza brought, is that God, this force of nature, is not personal. These are all impersonal. So you can say, well, I don't freaking believe that. And I can say, well, you're a fool because that's the only reason your body's alive. Doesn't matter that you don't believe it. It still acts on you.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get away from it. It's impersonal.
Yeah.
Whereas the God of that religion teaches, she probably went and peed. The God that religion teaches about is very personal and would act on only me and not you. Right? At least that's how it's right. So anyway, the next one is that all is sound, waves, vibration, spiral movements, and the hologram, which brings us the principles of coherency, resonance, and rhythm entrainment. So this is a big one. We're not going to finish this tonight because I haven't even finished writing it. We're constantly surrounded by sound. We even have a highly specialized opening in our heads for making sounds that are meaningful to other people. When we disturb the air around us in any way, we create sound. Did you know that walking around and even raising your hand creates sound? We don't hear it, but it does. When we raise our hand, we compress the air in a way that the compressed air front will travel away from us at the speed of sound, which is about 740 miles an hour. When we make periodic movements with our hand, then the sound becomes a note. And we're going to define sound here as any random acoustical disturbance that can be composed of many different frequencies. A note, on the other hand, is a sound of a single frequency. So we could make a sound in a less obvious way. If we took a short piece of wire and connect both its ends to a battery through a switch and close the switch, that makes a sound. The action of closing the switch, even though we don't hear it, has been broadcast to the outer limits of the atmosphere around the Earth due to the movement of the air. And it was broadcast all the way to the end of the Earth, the universe, by the expansion of the magnetic field around the wire when we close the switch, and by the gravitational wave due to the wire's acceleration. You're like, wait a minute, I didn't see the wire move anywhere. You didn't. It's all imperceptible. The purpose of this example then is to show how even our smallest, most insignificant actions will be broadcast far and wide and so influence someone or something. It's the same concept of the butterfly in China flapping its wings, creating a tsunami on the other side of the world. The purpose, so let's look at some other effects of sound. If we stretch a string on a frame and then pluck the string at exactly the middle of its length, we would see the outline of the string and the extreme positions of its movements making two symmetrical arcs. If we pluck the string at the spot that marks 1/4 of its length, we would see the string waving in a figure 8 shape, which is caused by standing waves. And so we are made of standing waves. We can go one step further and see whether sound can be used for storing information. We just would need a shallow round pen and 3 pebbles for this. We would fill the pan with water and drop in the 3 pebbles simultaneously and watch the ripples spread. Each pebble is a source of waves spreading evenly across the pan. These waves cross each other and create a complex pattern of wavelets on the surface of the water. And this might look chaotic to us. However, there's an order in this apparent chaos. The wave produced by each individual pebble expanded to reach the edge of the pan, and they crossed and interacted with each other. This created what is called an interference pattern. Now, if we could quick freeze the surface of the water and then lift out the rippled sheet of ice, we would be holding in our hands a record of the interference pattern, and we would call what we're holding a hologram. So there are 2 properties of sound, and one is constructive or destructive interference, and number 2 is beat frequencies. Constructive interference is when 2 wave patterns of identical frequency and amplitude or wavelength meet. We could call this hills and valleys. And when they match, it's constructive interference. And when they are added up, they produce a wave that's twice the height of the original one. Again, constructive interference. If the hills match valleys and valleys match the hills, they cancel each other out. And this is destructive interference. And beat frequency is how many times in a given time span there are hills and valleys. So let's go back to the sheet of ice that we've lifted from the pan and find the light source to illuminate it. We would find that we would see the 3 pebbles suspended in midair if we look through the ice to the light. So the ripple surface of the ice, or the interference pattern, stored the information about the location and shape of the pebbles. I wish we could do this. This would be such a cool experiment to do. So let's say we drop the sheet of ice and it breaks. We collect the pieces and hold one piece up to the light, and we would still see 3. We would still see all 3 pebbles in the one small piece. This is what makes it a hologram. So information can be stored by interference patterns of waves. To have the interference, we have to have 2 interacting components. Back to duality. People who say we can transcend duality. No, it's the same thing as polarity or gender. You can't have anything without 2 interactive components. And then the third, neutralizing force. But so let's say we're going to shine a laser beam at an apple, but we put a half mirror in front of the laser beam. So the beam now gets split into 2 components. One beam continues to travel undisturbed, while the other one gets deflected to another mirror that gets deflected to the apple. The upper beam we'll call the reference beam, and it arrives at a photographic plate after an eventless flight and deposits its imprint on the film. The other half of the beam is the working beam, and it had an event. It encountered the apple. The working beam got reflected from the apple and to the photographic film and fell on the film to meet its twin, the reference beam, where it shares its experiences. The interaction now between the 2 beams causes ripples to form, which will form the interference pattern. And when we look at the film, we'll see the apple appear looking very 3-dimensional and real. This is how we get tricked into believing things that are not true. But the important part of a holographic image is the interaction of the reference beam, a beam that is untouched, virgin, so to speak, and pure, and a working beam that has had experiences. The magnitude of the experience of the working beam is measured against the reference beam that serves as a baseline. So our whole reality is constructed by constantly making these comparisons all the time. Our senses, which describe our reality to us, are making these comparisons, and they have no absolute reference line, so they have to generate their own relative reference lines. So whenever we perceive something, we always perceive only the differences, only the contrast. So there can't be, right, the duality. You have to have the duality, the opposites, the differences, the diversity. So let's use bats as an example to really understand this. We know that a bat lives on the insects he catches in flight. So since he's active at night, he has developed a sonar-like device that enables him to make a reasonably easy living. He has highly specialized structures in his head that allow him to emit a very high-frequency sound and to direct it in a fairly narrow beam. This is his reference beam. As this beam encounters a flying insect, some of this sound gets reflected back to the bat. He picks up the echo, which is the working beam, and compares it to his original squeak. There will be a difference, polarity, between the 2, the working beam and this tells the bat how far away the insect is, how fast it's flying relative to him. And as the bat closes in on the insect, the neutralizing force, the difference between the 2 frequencies, the emitter and the echo, diminishes. And when it becomes very small, the bat opens its mouth and swallows the echo.
Hey, can I pause you 1 minute? I gotta shut this guy down. He's gonna keep screaming because there's a package.
Yeah.
Lo puedes dejar ahí, estoy en una sesión, por favor. Sí. Sorry for that, but yeah, it's solved. I solved it.
Yeah.
They don't tell you when they're coming, and they just pick the worst time sometimes.
Yeah. Murphy's Law.
Okay, keep going. It was getting intense.
And so it is with us. As we appreciate the difference between two sounds or vibrations, we can get along really well in life. So the principle of coherency then is what makes the hologram. Coherency is an order of a certain kind. Coherent light makes a good hologram. And the laser is the most popular source of coherent light. The most important aspect of laser light is that it produces light of a single frequency. It's not like grandfather sun that sends light that can be broken by a prism into all colors of the rainbow. A laser produces light of just one single color, and this light it emits is coherent, or it goes in step. This means that all the light coming out of the source is moving forward in even flat fronts, making it possible for the laser light to stay in a narrow beam over long distances.
Wow.
Another way to describe coherency is to imagine a company of soldiers marching in military fashion. They are 10 abreast, 10 side to side, aligned in rows. The distances between the rows are fixed, which is analogous to the even distance between the crests of light waves. That they are carefully aligned abreast is analogous to light being in phase or in step. So one row of soldiers is analogous to a laser beam. Let's say a slip-up occurs and one of the soldiers shifts, stepping on the heel of the fellow in front of him. The latter panics, jumps forward, and bumps into the fellow in front of him. And this starts a general panic, and the neat company diverges, opens up, and is completely in disorder. And so a beam of light can stay in a narrow beam only as long as it is coherent. When coherency is lost, the beam will expand rapidly, and that's what a flashlight is, a non-coherent light that can only go short distances.
Wow. What a package of revelations that you're giving us right now.
Yeah. So your heart is a big noisemaker. Each beat shakes your whole body, and your body has a response to this beat, which is quite measured. So when your left ventricle ejects blood into your aorta balloons out and creates a pressure pulse to travel down its length. When this pressure pulse wave reaches a place where your aorta splits in two or bifurcates to go down each leg, part of the pressure pulse wave rebounds and starts traveling back up the aorta. If in the meantime your heart ejects more blood, a new pressure wave is traveling down, and these two pressure fronts will eventually collide and produce an interference pattern. This is reflected in small movements of our body and is the reason for an irregular pattern of body motion. If we then hold our breath, there is communication between our heart and the bifurcation that says, "Hey, heart, hold it," meaning, "Hey, hold on to your next pulse until the echo returns to you, and then eject the next quantity of blood." So when this happens and the echo and the pulse move out of the heart together, they continue to move then in synchrony, and then our system is in resonance. And it causes our body to move harmoniously about 7 times a second. So resonant behavior requires only a minimum amount of energy to sustain it. Let's say we're outside on a balmy summer evening and notice some fireflies blinking on and off. And at first we'll notice that each goes randomly. They don't, right? But it seems that nature finds it more economical. Oh, but soon we notice that they're all blinking in unison. They're all blinking on and off at the same time. This phenomenon is called rhythm entrainment. And it seems that nature finds it more economical in terms of energy to have periodic events that are close enough in frequency to occur in phase or in step with each other. Major effects of rhythm entrainment occur in nature. Number one, our biological rhythms are entrained by light, and to a certain extent, they're entrained by gravitational effect. All asteroids, planets, and stars are rhythm entrained and develop resonances in their orbits, and this is what gives us the effects of astrology. When people can say it's absolute bunk, but they're entrained. They're entrained with each other. They're entrained with us. They're entrained with grandfather, son. And that's where we'll stop tonight. We'll get into it more.
Okay. Wow. This is really profound and really extensive, huh? That's a lot of different things. This is a whole book's worth of information, or even more. So it's been a profound, long lecture, full of revelations and the kind of things that you need to know to step into action. And if you choose to step into action, always remember that you can join Elohai-Living at Elohai-Living.com. And what will we study research next week?
We're going to continue with this.
Okay.
The divine idea that all is sound waves, vibration, spiral movements, and holographic, which bring us the principles of coherency, resonance, and rhythm entrainment.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so I wish these guys that supposedly study consciousness and are the big minds could find this, if somebody can lead them this way and they can listen to this. I think we can be onto something, though. You know what happens? I think that that gate closes when you're just researching things, but you're not in a quest of coming back to the oneness. You're some foreign researcher, and that's as far as you're willing to go. You're comfortable in your armchair, and you wouldn't trade that position with anybody else. You don't want to get your hands dirty, and there's a program for that. The fear of dirt. We got one for that. So we got one for everything that you might come up with. So far 197 sessions. So we're going to continue next one. We're coming close to the 200th session, and please, if you like this, please let us know, and we'll be hearing you. We'll be seeing you and sharing with you more on the next session next week. This is not over. It's just getting started, isn't it? All right, so let's go now. It's kind of late, and send you lots of love, everyone, and see you soon.